What's up, Chicago Bears fans? It's a new edition of Bear Report podcast. We're doing an instant reaction here, fresh off the Chicago Bears' big 35-16 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 6. The Bears are 4-2. They've won 3 straight games, and they're going into the bye week, above 500, feeling good, feeling confident. Another stellar game by the defense, and another stellar game by quarterback Caleb Williams. I'm Zach Pearson, the publisher of the Bear Report. I'm joined here by Andrew Freeman, a writer of the Bear Report, podcast of the Bear Report. Andrew, what a game, man. The Bears fell behind early, 3-0, 3 and outs in their first 2 drives. And then they got rolling, and it was a fantastic day again for Caleb Williams.
Yeah, it was kind of tough to tell early on, like which team got to London early and which team got to London like literally 2 days ago. By the way it started, the Bears really came out slow out of the gates. They looked, I don't know if unprepared is the right word, but they didn't look like they were into it or they were kind of like asleep at the wheel. But once that second quarter hit, I mean, they really dialed in on both sides of the ball in all phases and really just dominated this one. Like this was not, once you got past that first quarter slow start, this was not even a contest really. They dominated this one from the second quarter on. And like you said, the common theme for this season has been that the defense has been obviously stellar, creating turnovers, creating havoc up front, not giving up a lot of big plays and keeping the score low. While simultaneously, this offense has just gotten better and better as the season's gone on. And that starts with Caleb Williams, who has quickly improved during his rookie year. And he's just gotten better every single game. There's a couple nitpicks I have for him from this one. But, I mean, there's only so much you can say negatively when the guy's thrown for 226 yards on about 8 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns. He had the one really bad interception, but he's making plays with his feet. He's making plays in structure. You see the accuracy. You see the arm talent. You see his playmaking really starting to shine when he goes off script over the last few weeks. And now he's starting to run a little bit more, whether it's, in the design run game, whether it's in, as a scrambler when nothing's there. Like he's got the full package going right now. And I mean, things are really exciting going to bye week because there are still a lot of things for them to clean up, but the fact that you're 4-2 with a rookie quarterback and with that stuff where you're still winning games despite having things to get better at, I mean, there's nothing but positive to take away from here with that mindset.
Yeah, it's a good start to the morning. I mean, it's about noon local time here near Chicago. So the other games are getting ready to kick off, and there's like no stress. You don't have to worry about anything. The Bears already won. They're 4-2. They're quote unquote keeping pace in the division. Minnesota has a bye. Detroit has a tough game against Dallas. The Packers playing Arizona. But you're right, man. Like looking at Caleb Williams and just there's so much from this game. First rookie in Bears quarter in history to hit a 100 passer rating in 3 straight games. First Bears rookie to throw 3 touchdown passes in a game since Cade McNown in 1999. 79% of his completion percentage today was the best completion percentage ever for an NFL rookie with 4 touchdown passes and 25 attempts in a game. So a lot going on. And honestly, he probably should have had another touchdown or 2. Who was it? DJ Moore was out at the foot line, and then the interception was probably the play that he wants back. He said he wanted back. That could have been a touchdown if it was led right. But overall, I will say this: we do have to preface it by saying, the Rams, the Panthers, and the Jaguars are 3 of the worst defenses in the NFL. And you look at the splits of the first 3 weeks and the last 3 weeks, it's totally different. And I get that. But when's the last time the Bears have actually took advantage of something like that? We've seen offenses struggle year after year against bad defenses. Win the games you're supposed to win, dominate the defense you're supposed to dominate, let the rest take care of itself. And to me, it's important because as a rookie quarterback, you want to see growth every week. I don't care who you play. If you're putting up 100 passer rating, 120 passer rating back-to-back games, you're making progress. He looks comfortable. He's making the throws. He can clean up the deep attempts. I think we all, can agree on that. I think he'd be the first one to tell you, yeah, like I need to be better on that. He actually said at post game he needs to hit that throw to DJ Moore. But man, they're clicking. And honestly, here's a comment here from Twitter. It says, any thoughts on our offense seemingly only looking good when we go no huddle, something that's, isn't sustainable. Curious if we could compare the numbers. I'd have to look at the numbers, but I will say I did notice during the game, and I tweeted it out, I put it in the chat. When the Bears go tempo, they do look a lot better, and it kind of takes them a little bit to get into that tempo. I think they got into it like their third or fourth drive because they had 3 and outs. But I agree, dude. They look better when they're going to that tempo offense, and I think they should try to stick to it. But yeah, I'd have to. It's an interesting quote or interesting comment there. I'd have to see the numbers, but I imagine it's a lot better because they went tempo for a portion last week against the Panthers. I'm pretty sure they had 2 or 3 touchdown drives on that.
Yeah, and on whether that's sustainable or not, that part of the comment. I mean, look, I'm not going to don't want to compare the two too early in their careers, but I mean, Peyton Manning made a living in his career going with no huddle. I mean, that was where he built his Hall of Fame legacy, was his ability to control the game, playing with the up tempo offense, controlling the game to line of scrimmage, and I think, if you have the right quarterback who can make the right checks at the line of scrimmage, who knows how to use his personnel, who can read defenses pre and post snap, I think it's definitely sustainable. I think it's something that can work for you. If you have the right signal caller back there. And so far, I mean, if we've seen anything from Caleb, the one thing that he's looked very comfortable with this entire year has been making those calls at the line, making those checks. I'm sure he's made mistakes here and there in terms of, defenses have been able to fool him pre-snap and he gets them into the wrong play occasionally. But you look at him operate at the line of scrimmage, he's a guy who looks like he's in complete control of what's going on, who's completely aware of what's going on, and he doesn't seem overwhelmed with that aspect of playing the position. So, yeah, I think that's something that they need to, if anything, lean into more, because that's where, again, like you said, like that's where they seem to be. That's where Caleb is most comfortable. That's where this offense kind of flows a little better. Now, with that said, you need to continue to execute, right? And you need to have those big plays leading to those up-tempo situations in order to have that success. So it's one thing if you're doing up-tempo when you're getting, 1 or 2 yard gains, but if you can get a big chunk on first down, lead to a first down, and then go up-tempo from there, that's where you get defenses on their heels, right? You're not going to really get them on their heels if you're just getting, dinking and dunking, a couple yards here, a couple yards there, 3 yards in a cloud of dust offense. That's not really where this works. So it comes down to what's your play call on the initial couple plays of the drive? How do you start that drive? And then, how do the players execute from there? And, after that first rough start in the first quarter, it seemed like they were able to adjust to what they were seeing from the Jags defense, or at the very least their game plan going into it. They started to see the benefits of whatever their game plan was. And once they started to see those big first couple chunk plays go through, whether it was in the run game or the pass game, that's where things start to really open up for them, where they could go up tempo and continue to pounce on defenses that are on their heels.
Yeah, and there's a couple things here with the offensive success, and it's not just playing bad defenses. Like, you still have to play the game. Like I said, you still have to go out there and dominate teams you're supposed to dominate. But from the eye test, I have to look at the numbers on this too. With the eye test, I think the offensive line is playing a lot better. They did have one of the higher pressure rates in the first 3 games of the season, I believe. I actually just saw a tweet regarding that. Brent Coleman, the Bears were 25th in pressure percentage allowed in weeks 1 and 2. But now, since then, they've been 13th overall in pressure percentage allowed. So that's an improvement. And it's not like, the Jaguars still got some guys on the defensive line, and we kind of saw them get after Caleb Williams a little bit. The Rams, not, they don't have Aaron Donald, so, whatever there, and the Panthers are kind of a mess. But, like, the offensive line has really been playing well. Also, man, hats off to Shane Waldron, too. Like, it was a little frustrating seeing those first 2 drives and seeing the pressure get there. But, man, as the game went on, you kind of felt like Shane Waldron was just getting better and better. And that play, the touchdown of the game to Cole Kmet on that play was like the double tight end fake or something like that. And then Kmet is kind of, or what is it, double screen with a tight end delay?
Yeah, they faked like 2 screens and they just leaked him up the middle of the seam, and you're putting the linebacker in complete conflict there. And
yep, and you're going. Keenan Allen was in motion, I believe, going out for the fake screen. And yeah, like you said, you're just, the linebackers got to make a play, and he was all. I have to go back and look, but he was all sorts of confused there, and Cole Kmet streaking wide open. That's we've seen Shane Waldron teams do that before, and that's a beautiful play call. I just like the flow and the tempo of the game. Like the Bears were in rhythm. They just it never really felt like they were out of rhythm outside of those first 2 drives. Granted, they did have the one drive where you saw why Jacksonville's not a good team and why Doug Peterson's probably not going to make it this year. 2 defensive holdings. Was it an offside? I believe it was. 3 penalties. 12 men on the field.
In one play.
Yeah, 2 defensive holdings on that drive. Like, yeah, but said, man, it goes back. You got to dominate. Speaking of dominating, man, like this defense, I mean, down 2 starters going into the game. You got Jalen Jones, you got Elijah Hicks. And, if you're just, a Bears fan that, you pay attention, like, okay, 2 backups, should get a little worried. Like the Bears weren't worried. They didn't really see it as too much of a downgrade. They were confident in Elijah Hicks and Jalen Jones stepping in. And same with Josh Blackwell. He had to enter the game because Kyler Gordon looks like he did something to his hamstring or calf or whatever it was. And he got the interception. Josh Blackwell and Jalen Jones, Elijah Hicks, they all have experience. Like they've all played in games before. So it was kind of nice to see them dominate and give up that, they gave up a garbage time touchdown where it was just kind of like they're just playing a little shallow coverage there. And honestly, truly, the Jags wide receivers really weren't doing Trevor Lawrence any favors. But overall, Bears defense, another dominating game.
Yeah, it always helps when your opposing team's wide receivers the ball hits them right in the hands and they're just incapable of catching it in key spots.
Brian Thomas, man. He's going to be really good. But
you had
my fantasy team, man, he's killing me.
Yeah, you had the Gabe Davis drop in the end zone. You had the Gabe Davis drop on the deep ball. You had Christian Kirk ball. He literally hits him right in the face mask, and it's like it's a comedy of errors there for Jacksonville, which poor Trevor Lawrence did have to deal with that mess that they have.
Oh, he's not only got to deal with Doug Peterson too. So.
Got to deal with Doug Peterson. You got to deal with Trent Baalke. You got to deal with just that entire organization. It's brutal over there, and but yeah, I mean the defense. That's what you have to do, right? I mean, this is what they've done now for. I mean, going back to last year, and what's the stat? I think you tweeted out there that they haven't given up more than 21 points in like 12 straight games or something like that. Like crazy. That's just, and especially in this era of the NFL where, the rules and the style of play and the schemes are so favored and one-sided in terms of going towards the offense. Now, that has shifted a little bit back towards the defense, starting to, catch on to some of these schematic shifts that these offenses have been throwing out there. Defense has been a little bit ahead of the offense this year, but still, for them to be as dominant as they have been, going back to midway through last year, it's just testament to what this coaching staff has done. And I've questioned this coaching staff many times before in terms of, Eberflus as an in-game manager, whether he's the right guy, if you want to build a explosive offense around a young quarterback like Caleb Williams. But what he's done with the defense here in his time in Chicago has been nothing short of impressive. I mean, it feels like he's getting the most out of the talent that he has available to him, because you look at this roster on paper, I still don't think it's all that talented of a unit compared to where they're playing at, but he's got guys in the right spots. He knows these guys that clearly know what they're doing schematically within the system. They play a style of ball where everyone is bought into what Eberflus is selling to them. And you can just see it, man. They play hungry, they play fast, they play physical, they rally to the ball. They're always looking to make a turnover, make a play on the ball. And that's what causes them to where they're not giving up big plays, right? They keep the ball in front of them. And eventually the offense is going to have to make a mistake, either trying to make a play or push things a little bit too much, and they capitalize on those mistakes. And that's exactly how this has worked for the past, year or so, basically going back to midway through last year. So hats off to what they're doing on that side of the ball. And this pass rush has been a lot better than I expected. Bringing in Eric Washington, who has more of a defensive line background from Buffalo. There's so many good things to talk about with this defense, because It's the consistency as well. Just consistently every single week, you know what you're getting out of them, which is really just really tough to do with a defense because it's so fluid based off of who you're playing. But it doesn't seem to matter who they play. You just know that they're not going to give up more than 20 points. So if you can get the 20 points first, you know you have a good shot of winning the game.
Matt Eberflus, 14 wins now in his Bears head coaching career. What that goes over, quick math, 34, 40 games, 13 wins. Finally passes, or 14 wins, I'm sorry, finally passes Mark Trustman and is tied John Fox. So one more win for Matt Eberflus, and I'll pass John Fox in terms of wins for Bears head coaches. But you're right, man. He's done a fantastic job with this defense. It's been fun to see this defense get better. And like I alluded to, man, like, dude, they were down 3 starters in the secondary. And honestly, was there ever a point in this game where you're like, man, Trevor Lawrence is just carving them up? Like, this is going to be bad. Not really. Even that first drive when they were kind of moving the ball, it's kind of that bend, don't break defense. They held them to a field goal, which was huge in my opinion. And then you get, like I said, Jalen Jones, they're picking on him a little bit. Elijah Hicks made the play in the end zone to kind of play through it. And then you look and Josh Blackwell gets the interception. Montez Sweat gets in there. I don't have the sack numbers on me. I'm actually looking up. I was not tracking that during the game, but the Bears got there. I mean, quite a bit. There probably should have been more sacks, honestly. Let's look up really quick. So let's see.
They had 4 sacks in this game.
4.
I'm not sure how many pressures they had.
DeMarcus Walker got one. Montez
Yeah.
Sweat, Cowart got one. Chris Williams and Amen Ogunbayama. Yeah, I butchered that name bad. So yeah, I mean they're getting pressure, man, and they're getting the quarterback. All right, Andrew, let's talk a little now before we kind of wrap things up, though. The Bears are going to their bye week. They're 4-2. They won 3 straight games against teams they really should have beat. It gets tough for a little bit. You got Washington. Jaden Daniels has been fantastic this year. And let me also say this. I don't know why it has to be Caleb Williams against Jaden Daniels. It makes no sense to me. Why can't both quarterbacks be good? Why can't, if Drake May's good, why can't all 3 be good? If Bo Nix is good or Spencer, it just makes no sense to me. I hate that we have to compare everything. But yeah, you got Washington, who, I thought would probably have one of the worst defenses in the league this year. They're not the worst. They're actually pretty solid. They're playing pretty good. Yeah, and then you got Arizona, New England. Then man, it gets tough. Then what? You got your 6 divisional games in the final 7 weeks. Yeah, it's going to be a tough stretch here for the Bears, but you got to be feeling good going into this bye week, building momentum and coming out 4-2, especially beating 3 teams you should have beat.
Yeah, the key for them is obviously to get healthy over the bye week because they have the injuries in the secondary. They're a little bit banged up on the offensive side of the ball with a couple guys who are dealing with some things. So you want to get healthy over the bye week. But the big thing for them is over this next 3-game stretch. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but they got to go 2-1 at least over this next 3-game stretch because the Commanders, they have a very vulnerable defense, in my opinion. The Cardinals certainly have a very vulnerable defense, so you can take advantage of things. I think, offensively against those teams, and if the defense can continue to play the way they have, where you can slow down. Washington's got the best offense in football to start off the year. The Arizona's got one of the most explosive offense in the NFL. If you can just take advantage, if you can just slow those guys down, again, keep them to around 20, I think you have a good shot of winning those matchups. And against the Patriots, like the Patriots are, Drake May, it's going to be exciting, I think, to see him play. But on the other hand, it's like that's the worst situation of any of these rookie quarterbacks to walk into, and it's going to be tough. So
I'm a Drake May guy, but
oh yeah, I know you are.
They're going to get him. They're going to get him killed, man. They're going to absolutely get him killed. That poor guy. Yeah. And I feel like it's going to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but homerism aside, I think Drake is going to be really good. I think he's going to struggle this first year just because that offensive line is going to get him killed. But it's going to be the same narrative, man. We're going to see the same stuff that we saw with Caleb after 2 weeks. He's not good. He stinks. Why is he making mistakes? And really, it's just not a good situation for him.
No, it isn't. And the Bears should be able to take advantage of that in that matchup. That defense, I mean, they're built to play against those types of teams where they don't really have the talent advantage to be able to make up for the fact that, look, the Bears, like, they don't run a super complex defense, but again, like I said, they hustle the ball. They have all the pieces in the right places, and they're really disciplined and really well coached. So they're going to take advantage of these teams that can't necessarily beat you and out talent you. And I don't see the Patriots having much of a schematic advantage over them in that one. So it really comes down to, again, if they can go 2-1 over the next stretch, and then if they can split it 50-50 in the division, like, now you put yourselves where you have a really good chance of making the playoffs, because that gets you to what? It gets you to 9 wins, 9-8. So if you can maybe steal one more game, that puts you in a pretty good spot to make the playoffs, especially in the NFC. And it's going to be tough, but they're really well positioned right now. Again, it's about, like, can they stay healthy? Can they continue to add on to some of the things that they've added offensively and just continue to find a rhythm there? Can Caleb Williams, I know development is not always linear, but can he continue to get better and better and better? I don't expect, like, him to, have 120 plus passer ratings and like 3 or 4 touchdowns and 300 yards every single game from now on. There's going to be some bad games here and there, but can he just continue to get better and better? We start to see more of the special throws down the field. If he can be more consistent with his deep ball and he can find it, it's crazy to me that, like, he goes to the Bears and he just immediately forgets how to throw a deep ball, apparently, which was one of his, better traits coming into the NFL. But now it's like he's forgotten how to throw a deep ball. If he can find that again, like, that's huge for this offense, because he's so good at the quick timing routes, everything underneath. He's starting to get more comfortable targeting the middle of the field. If he can just get more accurate with those deep throws, like, this offense, that helps everything, because now that opens up the run game. It opens up more of the quick passing game where you can get more yards after the catch. So that would be huge if he can start connecting on some of those throws down the field. And the last thing I'll point out here before we get going with this is that on the Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams point, like, part of me wants to see Jaden Daniels start to struggle a little bit more, just so I can confirm my priors leading up to the draft, because I was not the biggest Jaden Daniels guy going to draft. But no, you're right. It's awesome to see 2 young quarterbacks balling out like they have. And it's good for the league too, because, quite frankly, all the great quarterbacks really are in the AFC. The NFC needs to have, more of a presence with your great quarterbacks. And if both Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels can be those difference-making guys for you in the NFC, I mean, you could be looking at a conference rivalry here for the next 10 or so years that can make things really interesting and exciting. So really excited to get to that matchup when we eventually get there in a couple of weeks, because it's going to be a really good measuring stick performance for both teams in that game.
We gotta quickly talk about Nate Davis, because there's a comment here about Nate Davis. To answer your question, I think they're just fed up. I think they're just done. I think they have made up their mind that they'd rather go with Bill Murray, Matt Pryor, Tevin Jenkins. I think last week just pretty much said it all, right? Like, when Tevin Jenkins went down, what'd they do? It was Matt Pryor and Bill Murray. So Nate Davis, they said on the broadcast it was he had an injury, right? Did you hear that? They said he was scratched because of an injury.
I didn't, but was he on the injury report throughout the week?
No,
maybe
unless I missed it. No, he was a healthy scratch.
Yeah, to me it seems like to me it just seems like they're moving away from him. Like, they're over it. They want to, like, I think they get better chemistry in that unit with Matt Pryor in the game. And I don't think Nate Davis has necessarily been, like, terrible when he's been out in the field. Like, there's always the lowlights out there they're going to pop up. But I'm compared to the other 2 guys that you've seen at center and left guard. Tevin hasn't had the best year. Coleman Shelton's been, he's had his moments where he's not looked good either. So I can't say he's necessarily been, like, way worse than those other 2 guys, but it's clear, like, with Matt Pryor in the game and even with Bill Murray, like, they just seem to have a connective tissue feel with that offensive line. They seem to operate better as a 5-man unit, which is really the most important thing, right? It doesn't matter how well you are individually. If the entire unit is dysfunctional because one guy is ruining that dysfunction, whether it's a chemistry issue, communication issue, all that stuff, like, it brings down the rest of the 4 guys on your offensive line. And I think that was the big issue going back to training camp when, he's not practicing ever. You have other guys in there that are able to gel with each other and, feel more comfortable playing alongside each other. And that's a big thing for an offensive line. It's not necessarily about getting the 5 best individual players on your offensive line. It's about getting the best starting 5, right? And I think the Bears are starting to figure out that their best starting 5 does not involve Nate Davis, because when Nate Davis is out of the game, they function a lot better as an overall collective unit. And that's the big thing here.
Yeah.
And Matt Pryor, to his credit, has been really, really solid when he's been in the game. So, and Bill Murray had a really nice game against the Panthers last week. So when guys can come in and step up, that also helps with, moving on from a guy who's been, a disappointment, when he was signed last offseason.
Andrew, as we wrap things up, give me a quick stud, a quick dud from this game. It could be a player, play, moment.
Yeah, obviously the stud of this game is Caleb Williams, but I'll go to my my guy who I put in as the X factor for this game. That was Keenan Allen. I thought he would have a pretty good game in this game because Tyson Campbell being out, the matchups just really fit well for him. Darnell Savage is the slot corner for the Jags, so Keenan Allen against Darnell Savage, give me that matchup all day, every day. And he had 2 touchdowns in this one. He had that great throw from Caleb, and both of them were dime balls from Caleb Williams, by the way. Yep. But the back shoulder in the back of the end zone against, I think it was a linebacker, where he's playing. They're playing Tampa 2. He goes vertical up the seam. Caleb Williams hits it perfectly with the back shoulder fade, and that was really pretty. And then the fade ball in the corner of the end zone, where again Caleb Williams was a perfect ball, but Keenan Allen just having the wherewithal to catch it over the shoulder, get both feet in bounds, not bobble it. He's one of the most surest handed wide receivers in all football. So he's a stud for me in this one. And in terms of a dud, I don't know, there's not really any real too many duds, because everyone had, everyone played well for the most part. I mean, whether I would say Elijah Hicks got caught a couple times, playing grass instead of, playing the man in coverage, but he also made his fair share of plays. That's what you expect from a backup safety. It is what it is. Jalen Jones did not have the best game. And if there was a guy that was being targeted, it was him in the secondary. So Jalen Jones, I would say, is probably the dud in this matchup, but it didn't really matter in the whole grand scheme of things because that defense was still awesome. And, he was still, I wouldn't say he was a dumpster fire out there either. So just a really good game all around for everyone on this Bears team. They were even able to overcome somewhat the long snapper issue, where you had the long snapper going down early in the game. It's man, how many long snappers are we going to go through this year? Is that going to be the new center position from last year, where it's just revolving door? Cole Kmet stepped up big time. Being the long snapper. I mean, he had his moments where it wasn't great, but I'm not going to blame him too much for that. I mean, it's a tough position to be put in, right? So yeah, a lot of really good stuff to go around for this Bears team.
I'm going to go. Obviously, the stud is Caleb Williams in the offense, getting going. That's a no-brainer. We've talked about it. My dud, we've also talked. I think Nate Davis and Velus Jones being healthy inactives, healthy scratches. It shows me the Bears are done with both of them. They'd be shocked if they're on the roster next year. Pretty obvious there. I'd also like to give a shout out my friend Tad, who gave me the stat about the Matt Eberflus win. So he tracks that because he gets very upset with Matt Eberflus. So yeah, that's a shout out to you, Tad, if you're listening. All right, Andrew, where can everyone follow you? Where can everyone read your work?
Yeah, you can find me at AJ Freeman 25 on Twitter. You can find my work on the Bear Report. We also have the Picks for Polls podcast on the Bear Report podcast network. So if you want to get more draft related content as well as more, Bears coverage, make sure to follow me and USAID on that podcast. And then, I got my Track in the Trenches series going every week. So if you're big into offensive line, defensive line play, I try to track, how both sides of the line are doing in the passing game. And I have a lot of fun putting that together. So make sure to keep an eye on that when that comes out later in the week. I'm going to try to get them out on Thursdays, but life happens and it gets pretty busy. But so that's where you can all find me there.
You can follow the Bear Report on Twitter at just Bear Report. You can follow me at Zach ZACK_Pearson. You can follow my work on bearreport.com. Have stuff after this game. Please rate, review, subscribe on all major podcasting platforms. Till next time, everyone, please stay safe and please stay healthy.